It is Breeders' Cup Saturday, horse racing fans, and that means the Super Bowl of the Breeders' Cup. The main event, the Breeders' Cup Classic, $6 million purse on the line. In this video, we're going to go through the entire field and also give you our bets for the race as well. And we're also going to give you a great sign-up offer to give you a risk-free bet on the Breeders' Cup Classic. But my name is Steven Andrus, managing editor at thelines.com, joined by Dave Bontempo, our fantastic turf writer over at thelines.com. Dave, how are you doing? How excited are you for the Breeders' Cup Classic? I mean, this is maybe the biggest race in the sport, right? At least among the people within the sport itself.
It really is, and I'm delighted for the entire weekend, too, because I've been to the Breeders' Cup and seen all the excitement and watch it grow, and then to culminate with something like this. What's especially exciting this year is that we have seen these horses progress over the landscape, through the Kentucky Derby, through the Saratoga season, through the fall, and we've gotten to watch them peak for this moment. They've all pointed to this moment, and now we're here.
Subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, let us know in the comments how you are betting on the Breeders' Cup Classic. And we also have a great offer for you. If you go to thelines.com and check out our Breeders' Cup coverage, under the odds tab, under horse racing, and then you have Breeders' Cup. You got to click on that or click on the race that you want to cover. Obviously, we are covering the Breeders' Cup Classic. So once you are there, you'll see the banner here from TVG. All you have to do is click on that Bet Now button and use the promo code LSRTVG, and you will get up to a risk-free $300 bet to use on the Breeders' Cup Classic. But let's start breaking this race down, Dave. Let's look at the starting gate here for the 2021 Breeders' Cup Classic. It is a field of 9 horses. The number 1 horse, Tripoli, at 15-1. The number 2 horse, Express Train, 20-1. The number 3 horse, Hot Rod Charlie. I know you and I like that horse. We'll get into him in a minute here. 4-1, trained by Doug O'Neill. The number 4 horse, Essential Quality, at 3-1. The favorite is the number 5 horse, Knicks Go. The 6, Art Collector, at 8-1. Number 7, Stiletto Boy, at 30-1. Number 8, the horse that crossed the line first in the Kentucky Derby before testing positive and being removed, Medina Spirit, at 4-1. And Max Player, the 9 horse, at 8-1. Dave, let's start with the 1 horse, Tripoli. This horse is, he's a winner, but how do you feel about this horse overall and his chances at 15-1?
Well, I loved him coming out of the TVG Pacific Classic, in which he had circled the field and made a great late run. But he had the chance to do that again when he moved up against better horses in the Awesome Again. And he wasn't able to do that against Medina Spirit, who had a big day. So my feeling about him is that maybe we've seen his race. He comes around and you get up against a wall of tougher horses and you cannot get there against them. Always runs hard. I think he'll be in position. I was a little surprised that when he was in the stalking spot to make a move in the Awesome Again, that he couldn't do it. So I think he just might be up against better horses. Medina Spirit, who beat him that day, is in here.
And it certainly doesn't help that he drew the rail either. So let's move on to the 2 horse here, Express Train, another horse that's faced Medina Spirit. What are your thoughts on Express Train at a 20-1 price on the morning line?
Well, it's almost like instant replay, or as Yogi Berra used to say, deja vu all over again, because he came out of that same race too and had the same dilemma, which was a Medina Spirit that woke up in the eyes of the horse racing community with that great effort. And, he made everybody else also ran in that race. So I think the first 2 horses have the same problem in who they're going up against. And so I would be surprised if they got onto the board. You'd have to feel that there's some improvement coming that we don't see, that maybe the connections do. But my first tendency is that they can't get there.
Now we get into what I love what you called this section of the starting gate in this year's Breeders' Cup Classic, the 3, 4, 5, the murderer's row of this Breeders' Cup Classic with a $6 million purse on the line. The 3-horse is Hot Rod Charlie at 4-1. I know you and I talked about this horse at length during Triple Crown season, a little bit in the summer as well. There's not a ton not to like about this horse.
We love him for so many different reasons, whether it was the gutsy ride in the Kentucky Derby to come in third, that suicidal pace in the Belmont, and he hung in there, and he got a good second. He ran stubbornly and showed you a ton of heart in making Essential Quality do everything necessary to win. He became our sentimental favorite after winning the Haskell. We both had him pretty good, and then he got taken down for clipping heels with Midnight Bourbon. And then he showed me something in the Pennsylvania Derby. I like the adjustments that they made with him to not go quite as fast in the first half, and he had a little bit left to hold off Midnight Bourbon. So what I love about Hot Rod Charlie, he's always around. And there's one more reason to love him. He was 94-1 last year before the Breeders' Cup. And, you always latched onto him from that point on. He's always run well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been 5 months, Dave, and I'm still stunned that at Big Sandy at Belmont with those suicidal fractions at the start that he still somehow finished second. That was so impressive to me. That a 1.5-mile race, we're running the more classic 1.25 miles in this race, the same distance as the Kentucky Derby, so something to keep in mind there. And the horse next in the gate is the one that Hot Rod Charlie continues to have duels with throughout this 2021 campaign. It is Essential Quality, that gray thoroughbred at 3-1. If you like Hot Rod Charlie, you have to like Essential Quality, right?
You absolutely do. And if horses could talk, Hot Rod Charlie would say, I won't miss the winter without Essential Quality. Every time I turn around, there he is. Because they gave us a lot of excitement in those races. Essential Quality, to me, is just a horse that always comes on hard and does just enough at different distances. And that's really going to matter in the pace factor in this race because he's always coming late. And then we have to wonder if anybody's going to go with our next horse. And this 3, 4, 5 from a pace standpoint is going to tell us a lot about the race.
Yeah, absolutely. The next horse you mentioned in that murderer's row in this section of the starting gate is the favorite, the 5-horse Knicks Go, 5-2 on the morning line. Dave, I understand why he's the favorite, but it's not often that you get to the Breeders' Cup Classic and you have a favorite who has never won at this 1.25 mile distance. Does that give you pause, or do you think that he is still the deserving favorite in this race?
It gives me pause to think that he may not be favored at the post time. I mean, they'll all be right around. They may back that around, but he has 3 straight wins at 1.125 miles, hasn't quite done this distance, and he hasn't really been forced from a character standpoint to really have to do it down the stretch because he's obliterated the field by that point. So if he gets out, he runs even better with the lead. But as I'm looking at this race, he probably will get out, but I think there's going to be an effort to keep him honest. And that's really going to play into this.
Yeah, I mean, let's see if he can get that 1.25 miles if somebody presses him early and we have some really tough fractions on the front end, right? I mean, this is a horse that won the Breeders' Cup dirt race a year ago. He was the champion of that. He's stepping up now to try and win a second Breeders' Cup race in the following year. That's not all that uncommon, especially in recent history. If you look at the recent history, there's a handful of horses that have done it. It's not like a situation with some of these Kentucky Derby records where the last horse to do it was like back in the 1950s or the 1940s. I mean, this is something horses have won multiple Breeders' Cup races in years near each other in the 21st century. So that's not really an angle I'm fading here. It's more just the distance here. And I'm curious.
Well, you got to get that extra eighth. And, when you look back at that Breeders' Cup race, I mean, that was exhilarating. When you watch that race, you say, Nobody could beat him on this day. And then you say, well, maybe they have an idea that he can stretch. He hasn't been asked to yet. And it's one of these, I would almost equate it with a fighter who gets all these first round knockouts. And they say, well, what are you going to do when he's tested? Well, we'll find out when he is tested, because you can't blame him for everything that he's done. But in the, I guess it was the Metropolitan, one race, some horses ran with him, and it was a slow pace too. But when he felt pressured, he didn't run the same. So if he runs pressured, I think that's why we have to look at closers being in this.
All right, so we'll see at the end of the video here. We're going to lay out how different ways different ideas for how we want to bet this race. But I'll tell you right now, for me in a Breeders' Cup Classic, this is a race where I try to look for some prices for sure, because it's just such a strong field of. Put it in perspective, right? This is a $6 million purse with $3.3 million going to the winner. That first place prize is bigger than the entire purse of $3 million for the Kentucky Derby. So you have to assume that you're getting these horses' best shots, and the trainers have done everything they can to get them ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. So let's move down the starting gate. The number 6 horse is Art Collector at 8-1. Your thoughts on this horse, Dave?
Well, good recent form in these victories at 1 1/8 that he's been assuming. When you look at the matchup with Knicks Go from last year, I would say there's nothing in there that would suggest he could beat Knicks Go in this, unless Knicks Go came back to the pack. So if you're backing Art Collector, you're thinking something is going to happen to Knicks Go, and I think that would be your off angle on him. He's a quality horse. You're looking to see if something happens on the pace if you're going to back Art Collector.
Moving on to the 7 horse, Stiletto Boy, morning line odds of 30-1. And in this race, despite those odds, you are not just tossing this 30-1 shot, are you?
No, I'm tossing him in. I like the idea. When I watched that race with, that Medina Spirit won, I love how he was coming at 50-1. He started fast. He was near it. They passed him, and he came again. And he gave everything he could in getting a credible, although distant, second-place finish. It was 5 widening lengths, but you don't need him to win. You're thinking, can I get him underneath in the 3rd or 4th spot? And if Medina Spirit is the horse, then you're saying, well, you have to toss him in underneath at those prices. I thought he would have been like 15-1, 18-1. So I think that's big value.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I'm not going to leave him off my exotics for sure. It's just too juicy of a price and some promising results here coming into the Classic. The 8 horse is the controversial Medina Spirit, 4-1. Again, crossed the finish line first in the Kentucky Derby before testing positive for a banned substance. His trainer, Bob Baffert, has been in court ever since, trying to fight it, trying to preserve his Kentucky Derby championship and all the money that comes with it. But all that stuff aside, Dave, that's a conversation for another day. What is this horse right now? How does he stack up in the richest race of the season?
I have to love where he's positioned, Stephen, because the Awesome Again, I've looked at that a couple times, and that was a definitive run. And what's good about him here is that now this event is on the West Coast. And I'm sensing a West Coast, East Coast tilt and wondering if that's going to play a factor in how this manages to come out. You have good form on these West Coast tracks. You're going to Del Mar. And, basically on his home turf, he's running very well. I expect a big one from him. And, he has been overlooked because of not winning the Preakness and then all the other stuff after the Derby. But if you took that race and isolated it, you'd have to play him.
Any concern that he's up on the lead with Knicks Co and they tire each other out?
Yes, I see the concern for both him and possibly Hot Rod Charlie being up there. I mean, based on the Belmont and, that he could, and I saw Hot Rod Charlie in the Pennsylvania Derby. He ran early. In the Haskell, he ran early. So I'm seeing 3 potential pace factors up here with Medina Spirit. Probably has to go early. That's his style. and he'll be in there with a pace duel. I think Hot Rod Charlie will possibly be in a duel, and that's why this could set up well for Essential Quality.
I'll say this, though. If Hot Rod Charlie is up there with those other two, he is the one horse after what we saw in the Belmont that it wouldn't scare me as much because he basically survived it at 1.5 miles, so I'd feel pretty good about him being able to survive it at 1.25 miles. The last horse,
I think they might try to rate their horses a little bit up there. They might say, "Hey, let Nick's go, but maintain contact, and then hope that he comes back to the pack." But Nick's Go hasn't been coming back to packs unless they force him back.
There you go. One last horse to get to here in this field before we kind of share some of our betting ideas for this classic. The 9-horse Max Player at 8-1. What are your thoughts on this one?
Coming in off very good form from New York, and hasn't been in the highest competition with that, but he's on his game. Now the question is, can he go to California and bring that good New York form there? The prices on him are not that remote, so there is some belief in him, and it's just a matter of if it's his day. But I think the shipping, is a disadvantage to some of these horses on the East coming out there. So, they are top horses, but what a field.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Hey, before we give our bets, I want to let everybody know here on the site, thelines.com. We have a sports betting 101 video. If you are new to betting on horse racing, highly recommend you check out this video. You can find it in the middle of all of our Breeders' Cup articles, or you can find it right here on our YouTube channel as well. Sports Betting 101, how to bet on horse racing. So, all right, Dave, before we wrap up, we got to give out some bets here. So how are you looking to bet this race? Is it so kind of up in the air that you're going to be playing a lot of different pace scenario angles, or do you kind of have your mind made up about how you want to attack this field?
Well, I take what my buddy Paulie says. I'll do this for openers, and then I'll do this for seconds, The first thought that came in my head was an exacta box of Nick's Go and Essential Quality, on the belief that Nick's Go would be able to beat back Hot Rod Charlie and Medina Spirit, and then Essential Quality comes late, and those two are gunning to the wire, not knowing if this extra 1/8 of a mile hurts Nick's Go. But that's only one. All these horses we mentioned, I have to throw them into a 50-cent trifecta box because, one of these scenarios I'm envisioning and we're talking about may not come out. And whether it's Nick's Go in a duel or Nick's Go puts the field away and maybe Essential Quality can't get by Hot Rod Charlie, how do you separate those? So my second bet is to take these four and a 50-cent trifecta box with them, just for starters.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's hard to separate these horses at the top in the odds. And I think what I would do is try and mix in a Stiletto Boy. And my kind of strategy with these races, like I'm a $100 better on these big races. Like I'll bet $100 on the Derby, Preakness, Belmont. We get to the Breeders' Cup Classic here, I'm going to do the same thing. So however that plays out as I'm messing around with my TVG app and trying to figure out what bets to do, I'm just basing it on my $100 budget and trying to figure out how I can get as many of these horses into these 50-cent trifecta boxes. I'm going to try and do what you like to do on a $1 superfecta, where I have 2 horses in the 1 and 2 spot and then 2 horses in the 3 and 4 spot, and that's a $4 ticket, right? So
$4 ticket. Yeah, I did that at the Belmont, and then I decided to do it again, but it's $4 a pop, and I think it's only 12 if you move it out to a third one. Like if you have your first 2, it's okay to move it out to 3 in that next spot. It's very doable. And you have to be lucky to have the exacta in there first. And I think take one of those horses and put them over 5, $20 trifecta box, a key, hoping that somebody gets in, whether it's Stiletto Boy or a couple 8-1 shots. I think the prices are good, but we can't be reaching too much, because if you get 5-2, 4-1, and 5-2 in the triple in a 9-horse field, it's pretty good. But I don't know if it'll pay enough to give you that much back on the spread.
Yeah, it's true.
Bet. So that's a concern. But hey, but it's just a great puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, the Breeders' Cup Classic always is. But are we agreed that if there's one long shot that we're the highest on, one that we want to mix in on these exotics, it's Stiletto Boy?
Yes, that's for me. I'm tossing him in totally off the Awesome Again race. So I'm projecting that he goes back to that. But he beat two of the horses in here. He beat the 1 and the 2 horse. So basically, if he stays up there like that, people may not have really seen that race. So I'm giving him major respect off of that. And I think it's really going to be exciting.
I'm kind of hoping we get a nice price on Medina Spirit. I think, all these trainers are obviously motivated in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but I think Bob Baffert maybe feels that, it might have been a banned substance technically, but he talked a lot about how it's not necessarily performance enhancing, and he's been in court fighting this like crazy. So at least in his mind, I think that the punishments may not have fit the crime, and he's going to be extremely motivated here to try and end the big horse racing season of 2021 the way it started, with Medina Spirit crossing the line first. So I think that he's going to have that horse as ready as possible, and he's as motivated as ever to, kind of stick it to the haters here at the end of the season in the biggest, richest race of the year. So I'm going to have some Medina Spirit on top of my exotics and mix in these other horses that you like as well. But I think the sentimental favorite for me is Hot Rod Charlie. I think you'd be crazy to leave him off your tickets with just how gutty that horse is. So,
right, we have to have them all in, and I think the part where you get lucky here is all these horses we talked about can win.
Yeah.
They all have the capability to win, and not much separates them. So your stab will be, okay, who do I put on top? If I go that way, and if you get something like 9-2 on Medina Spirit, or anything like that, if that's your horse, you're banging that win bet because of the value of that. I not as much this time, but in the Breeders' Cup I went to in Florida, I saw a lot of potential mistakes in which people ignored the win bet because the exotics were so alluring.
Yeah,
and these are horses 7-2, 4-1 that normally would have been 2-1.
Right.
And you could have made money banging those horses just on the win line and not risking what came after. So I think that's one of the things that the Breeders' Cup, as bettors, we have to be aware of that.
That's a great point. These are the deepest fields you'll see in horse racing all year, and these horses are just the most talented ones. So there's never much of a consensus in these races. So there's going to be value even on the favorite if you like the favorite. So Dave Bontempo, our turf writer at thelines.com. You can read all of his Breeders' Cup coverage there. My name is Steven Andress, wishing you guys the best of luck on the Breeders' Cup Classic in 2021. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.